Welcome back to The Breakdown, a show about bodybuilding, fitness, and all things Generation Iron. I'm Tifanny Urrea, your feisty, unprofessional host. And with me today, I have Shawn Ray, and we have today, filling in, is Stanimal. Stanimal is a classic physique competitor, born in France, lives in Venice, California. First ever IFBB men's physique pro, and from France, Switzerland, and Nigeria.
Ooh, he's mixed up. We gotta get to that.
You're gonna have to explain that for me, please, and thank you.
Well, I was born in France.
Okay.
So I have my passport from France, but at the time my parents lived in Nigeria when I was born. So as soon as I was born, I flew back to Nigeria. I lived there a few years, then went back to France, and then moved to Switzerland when I was 12 years old.
He is the current 2017 San Marino Pro champion and plans on making major splash in the classic physique division in 2018.
Makes sense. I mean, it's a natural progression. You won the last pro show of the year last year. And before we go further, how was that? I mean, did you go there with the intent that you thought you were actually going to win that show?
Well, I did the Ferrino a week before,
right.
And I heard, I'm a close friend with Danny Hester, so I heard he was supposed to do that show too. And I was going with the intention to win that show, but I knew, you know, if the champion is here, I mean, the former champion is coming, you know, I might not. So when they said they were going to have the San Marino Pro the week after, I said, okay, I'm just going to jump in.
By winning San Marino, you're already qualified for the 2018 Olympia.
That's right, yeah.
But does that mean you're not going to compete this year, or?
No, well, so since they added 5 more pounds and I was already 5 pounds under the weight for my last show, so it means I have like 10 pounds I can play with, so I really want to focus on the Olympia.
It's a pretty big accomplishment, winning, but I mean, why would you want to take a whole year off? I mean, classic physique is what, 2 years old?
Yeah.
You're not well known yet.
No.
And I just found out that Danny Hester and Brianna Ansley are doing the Arnold Classic physique, and you're going to take a year off. Yeah, he threw his hat in the arena over the weekend. But those guys are competing.
What do you mean over the weekend?
Well, at the Fit Expo, which launched, we'll get to.
So you can just do that? You can just be like, oh. Yeah. I mean, if you can, if they would allow you.
Well,
just
if you're
like
the
decide,
Mr. Olympia,
you can decide last minute like that.
If you're Mr. Olympia, you can do whatever you want.
Wow. Okay.
But in your sense of the word, yeah, you're established because you're a pro. You're qualified for the Olympia. But taking a year off, does that? I mean, there's a lot of shows where a lot of other names are going to pop up. You sure that's a smart thing to do, or?
Well, I'm going to work on like the social media aspect to make sure my name stays relevant. And but as far as competition, I've been competing a lot the past few years. I've done at least 7 to 9 shows every year. So it's like just to give my body a little break, so then I can really finish hard and then go on to the following year. Yeah.
So what does it mean to like work on your social media? I mean, I know it must take some time, but what are you going to do? Are you going to put out some videos or something?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of videos. I'm working on a film documentary with some big influencers in the industry to come on like Netflix and other stuff next year. Yeah.
You're going big styles. What are they going to look at?
Mainstream, so he can't go to the coffee shop without being harassed.
But I mean, what kind of video are we going to look at? Are we going to look at you lifting weights?
No, it's really it's more like a look at the industry today in Gorge and Venice, how it's coming back, the energy between people, like, you know, really like how, because I mean, you've been in Gorge and Venice, people are very encouraging kind of things you don't
very supportive here in California compared to the East Coast.
So you're living in Venice Beach. So do you go back? Do you go back to Switzerland? Have you been back to Nigeria? Have you go to France?
I've been back to France for the first time last year for the Fitness Expo they have over there in March. I'm going back in March this year, and I went to Switzerland for the Fitness Expo also like a year and a half ago.
What's your expectation? Do you think are they paying attention to what you're doing out here?
Oh, absolutely. They just did a story on a major TV network over there about me when I was going to the Ferrino Legacy, and it really was great response from the public.
So this past weekend was the LA Fit Expo, and we were all in attendance. So let's talk about our experiences.
Well, let's talk about my experience. I came back with the gold, the heavyweight.
I've been wanting to know what's
Let me show you what I came home with. A little bit of the gold right here. Dave Johnson, actually from the Dumbbell Club, actually inducted myself along with a few others. Michael Hearn, your boy Danny Hester, Ashley Kaltwasser, and Nicole Wilkins-Lee inducted us all into the Bodybuilding Dumbbell Hall of Fame. So this is kind of one of the little souvenirs that we got as a result of that. But they're just paying attention to our contribution to the sport. You know, Oksana Grishina, Nicole Wilkins, and all these other athletes that came in. They have huge resumes in terms of what they've done to the sport. And I've obviously been retired 17 years. And what an honor and a privilege for Dave to recognize what we contributed to the sport. So that was one of the little things I came in.
Cool.
Kind of cool.
All right. How was your experience?
It was great. For myself, I was just with Shawn on Saturday. And Sunday I was coming.
Didn't Shawn have a booth?
Yeah, he had
I
his
thought
own.
I saw he had a booth just for himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Sunday I was there to give Danny his prize, actually. Part of his prize for the Hall of Fame. So.
You didn't work for any companies? Are you signed with any supplement companies?
I'm about to sign with one, actually.
Okay, so we won't talk about it because I'm sure it's like in negotiations. Got it.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. I saw Samir Benu was there. Of course, 4-time Mr. Olympia Jay Cutler was in the house. Michael Hearn was there. And all the major sponsors, bodybuilding.com, Quest Nutrition. I mean, you name it, they seem to
all the
be in
huge
house.
companies. So, it's really, expos are really expensive to be at.
They are. This was the 15th year for the LA Fit Expo, and Mark Mazurek has done nothing but amazing work. I actually worked with him back in the 80s. He actually took it over from his partner, John Balick, and I watched this thing grow exponentially. I mean, he's got companies like Subway Sandwiches and Ralph's. He's got some major sponsors. I actually saw Blue Cross had a little stand there. They've got the U.S. military. He really does go above and beyond to make it very inclusive. So to walk down an aisle and see a health insurance or the military, recruitment thing, that's way outside of our bodybuilding, health, and fitness. Right.
But those companies see as like fitness is a good demographic to tap into. So
absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
Everything, it seems to be very inclusive now.
Right.
For the bodybuilder, I think it's a great way to launch a clothing line or a supplement line. It gets very pricey. I gotta admit that it's very pricey. I think it would charge like $25 or $35, and it looked like there must have been 30 or 40, 50,000 people coming through the doors. So it's a good way to start the year off by being exposed to all of this stuff.
Yeah, I think it's more like companies like have the presence there and just put yourselves out there. If anything, like if you don't make the money back, like that might have to be a loss.
Well, like
but to have a presence,
like you said
LA Fit Expo is good.
Well, you said something about your social media. Listen, even if you're not selling anything, I got my cameras rolling around my booth, and I'm interactive, handing out flyers and brochures, and my people are capturing that from my social media.
Advertising.
That's one thing, though. I think certain company, they just get a booth over there, a very small one, and they don't capitalize on it. They don't do anything. They're just sitting there and waiting for someone to just come and talk to them. And then, for them, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think they necessarily plan on getting the most out of this opportunity.
And I think at the end of the day, these new companies, some of them are gun shy. They show up, they're overwhelmed with all this muscle and beauty walking around, and they don't know how to go and recruit someone for the military or whatnot. But you still have to be able to compare and contrast the size of your booth, the different types of companies that are there. So if you've never advertised at an expo, I mean, for me, it's highly recommendable. You may not make money on the first time, but the second year you might come back with a whole new perspective because you saw that they had a big screen TV. These people had an iPad to capture the email addresses. This company had girls in bikinis, to bring people in. It really reminds me kind of the Shark Tank. You got to go on there and present. You got to go on and present. You have to learn sales, and you learn it on the fly. It can be expensive, but I think if you're going to try to get eyeballs, the expos are the way to go.
So the Arnold Classic. Invites went out. It's coming up first week of March. Let's talk about the lineup. The heavy hitters in Open, 212, and Classic, which is going to be the first year of it.
The Classic's going to be interesting because we're going to have kind of a rubber match with Danny Hester and Breonna Ansley, so all eyes are going to be on that. I predicted a year ago that Classic Physique may potentially take over the interest of the sport, where right now it's anchored by bodybuilding, but Classic is very competitive, and it's going to be a very tough lineup.
Honestly, I don't know how these people were picked. So it's not guys that were...
Well, you're paying attention to the Classic Physique, right? So it's invitation, I believe?
It's only if you have made the top 5 last year.
Wait, it's only if you were made top 5
have
in all the shows?
Yeah, any shows,
Okay, that
broad.
makes sense.
We could wind up with a pretty deep lineup, but all eyes are still, it's going to come back. This is the 30th year for the Arnold Classic. It's going to come back to men's open bodybuilding. And we've got the return of Dennis Wolf, who was injured. He's missed 2 years. Shawn Rhoden has just announced that he's doing the competition. And the bigger story is that 9-time Arnold Classic champion Dexter Jackson is coming. I think he's looking at the clock. Funny. Dexter Jackson's like 49 years old, okay? He's going for win number 6. And he's chosen the right contest to do it because we've got the defending champion, Cedric McMillan, is going to be in the show as well.
William Bonac is doing it too.
If he doesn't do the Arnold Classic this year, what's going to bring next year? At some point, Father Time catches up to all of us. So he may as well keep going.
I think he has a big revenge to take on last year.
Yeah.
The way the season ended, Prague and the Olympia. So I think he wants to just get back on stage and make a statement.
Well, if he does, and he wins his 6th Mr. Olympia, or Arnold Classic, it would be unprecedented. And the NPC is now running the amateur portion of the amateur division. So you have the NPC Pro League running that, and I believe that's another way to get to the Mr. Olympia Championship. So those winners will have a chance to go to the Olympia.
So the winner of the amateur Arnold Classic is going to get invited to the Olympia?
As far as I know, they turn pro.
They turn pro.
And they have. I've emceed the amateurs for the past 5 years, and I didn't hear if there was any adjustment on that part.
If an Arnold amateur got an Olympia invite, I would be like, I quit.
Pro.
I know.
Oh,
but I'm just thinking like...
This is a weekend that has 18,000 athletes, has over 200,000 fans coming through there, and it generates like $40 million over the course of 4 days. So this is a big deal in Columbus, Ohio.
40 million.
Lots of money going into Columbus, and you know, it's one of those weekends. If you've never been, this
$40 million.
Yeah, it makes.
And what's the prize money again?
Well,
what are the prize money?
I think it's $130,000 for first place.
For the guys.
For the guys.
And then the girls get.
And the guys.
The girls get.
There's a lot of.
Girls get.
There is a numeric breakdown.
I love men that will just defend this. Go ahead, defend it.
I'm going to defend it because I was there in 1989.
Still bullshit.
And it was men's bodybuilding and women's bodybuilding. Women's bodybuilding is no longer. The reason why this show grew exponentially has a lot to do.
Everyone talks about just ticket sales.
No, it has a lot to do with men's bodybuilding. And through the work with Bob Lorimer and Jim Lorimer and the sponsors, they've been able to raise this money. Now, it was men's bodybuilding that anchored it. You take men's bodybuilding away from the Arnold Classic weekend, there'll be no money. What's been added in place of women's bodybuilding is you have women's physique, you have men's physique, you have women's bikini, you have men's classic physique. You also have this humongous strongman weekend that the winner, I believe, gets like $60,000.
More than the. Okay.
Let me put it in perspective, because the men's powerlifting, while they get a lot of money, is independently sponsored. It's independently sponsored, and the money is coming from MHP. That's the main sponsor. Disparity Nutrition throws a lot of money at bodybuilding. Where does that money come from? A former Arnold Classic winner who happened to be a 3-time Mr. Olympia runner-up who was in men's bodybuilding. If the women are anticipating all of the money to be thrown at them equally, we've got to have sponsors that invest in the women's side of things. The men are investing in the men. That's the disparity.
Can we be in agreement that women consume probably more than males?
In terms of participation, yes, but how many of the women?
A lot of the dollars in the industry come from women.
No, they do not. The majority of the supplement companies are owned and run by men.
That doesn't mean but where's that money that's going into their pockets?
Tell me one female company that has a presence in our industry that's running things, with the exception of Jantana and Liquid Sunrays.
But why are we talking?
Because that's where our sponsorship money comes from.
I'm talking about consumer money.
But so consumer money comes across the board.
That are ran by men, that are ran by men, they're not do they have to realize that most of the money, their income is coming, their revenue is coming from women consumers? Well,
there's a fair share of money that's coming from the consumers, but who is running the industry? And this is a situation.
Men.
This is a situation where the women were invited into this. By the way, back before 1980. There were no women bodybuilding competitions. We need more money for women from women's companies. That's where that has to come from.
Why does it have to come from women's companies?
Because that's where the interest is. If the women want to support their sport, they're going to have to come and get involved in this sport.
Or men can just view the women equally and just fucking do equal pay.
In a perfect world, that would be ideal.
The men's bodybuilding is getting the most. I mean, classic and men's physique, I don't think they get.
They're relatively new, and it's coming up. It is increasing.
If classic physique ends up getting more money than women's bikini. So let's talk about a controversial figure in the 212 division, Hadi Choopan. He is from Iran. So he's quite popular, but just a little background, he did beat Flex Lewis at, what show was this?
No, he should have. He should have beat
he should have beat Flex Lewis.
He was second to Flex Lewis, who's the 5-time Olympia winner.
Okay, so then, and his fans were sending death threats and being
to Flex Lewis.
So Flex, so Flex Lewis was getting death threats?
A lot of people arguably thought Hadi should have beat Flex Lewis, and I'm one of those guys. Flex has a prettier body, but he was clearly off, and Hadi was like, wow. His fans were like, what the hell happened here? I mean, look at the pictures.
Which is fine, but were they like, what the hell happened here? Or, we're gonna kill you, Flex Lewis? Like,
I think that's the thing. In social media, anybody can say whatever, but these fans over in Iran are fanatically supportive of their athletes, and Hadi, on any given day, in any other place in the world, could have won that contest. He was supposed to be at the Mr. Olympia 212 last year and wasn't able to make it because of the travel ban that Donald Trump's put out there. This is a guy that's supposed to be in Columbus, Ohio at the 212, and if he can get there, he'll probably win on paper. But again, this travel ban that Donald Trump's talking about may keep him out of that. And as an athlete, I think this should supersede any type of travel thing. This is an athlete. A pro athlete's not a threat to our national security. I mean, and he should be able to show, look, I have a pro card, I'm coming to compete, a letter from Arnold Schwarzenegger. What else do you need? I mean, the guy should be able to travel the world freely. And if nothing else, sports should supersede all the political travel ban stuff.
Absolutely. The sport brings people together, and you know, back in the day, like in Greece, when they have big wars, whatever, when they had the games, it was peace.
Shut down. This should definitely be something we're not talking about. Unfortunately, if this guy's not in the show, again, his best years may be behind him.
When I got my green card here, like when I went to San Marino, actually, I had some.
Back up. When did you get your green card?
In 2014.
Okay, so
Donald
right
Trump when you were and when you were kind of starting to compete. Did you get your green card too? Like travel to compete? Or?
I got the green card because I got the pro card through that process.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
I think a lot easier back then. Before. So now we're talking, you know, Trump's been in office for 11 months. A lot has changed.
Well, the thing is now they're renewing my green card, and it's been taking way longer than it was supposed to. So when I went to San Marino, I was supposed to have my card for like 6 months already, a new one. But you know, everything is postponed because of Donald Trump. I had to go to the office, and trying to get an appointment already was like a nightmare.
Right.
So I had to show up there. And
you're doing this all like while prepping for a show.
I
you're
was
hungry. You're 2 weeks out.
Yeah, before the Ferrigno. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because you can get an appointment for the next 3 weeks or 2 weeks, I think. So I was getting too close. Yeah.
Are you going to be voting for Donald Trump?
A little.
Not anytime soon.
I don't think so.
2 weeks out from a show, and I got to worry about something like that. I'd be losing my shit.
Yeah, I think when it comes to sports, I mean, the whole travel ban thing is it just doesn't make any kind of sense. I mean, these are athletes that have a history, and you can vet them very easily. I mean, they're not threats to national security. I
think athletes should be allowed to travel wherever just to do what we do. That means compete.
If he doesn't make it to the Arnold Classic, I hope he sorts it out by the next year's Mr. Olympia, because that would be an epic showdown between those two on U.S. soil.
So I hear Hadi's arrogant.
Listen, I can tell you what, if he's arrogant, it has to be in his defense of what he's accomplished. It's come very fast for Hadi, but I think he's a perfect gentleman.
Where are people getting this from?
Social media.
Arrogant?
Listen, Phil Heath. I mean, Phil Heath is a 7-time Mr. Olympia. He has just as many haters as he has people that love him, but it's because he defends himself. And I think that when you come out to defend yourself and you read these things, sometimes you get it
himself,
yes.
Or he actually is arrogant? Because wasn't he on Generation Iron talking about that he is?
Let me tell you something about Phil Heath. He's everything that Arnold Schwarzenegger was. So you can call him all kinds of things.
But I have no problem with it.
If he's got the resume to back it up.
Exactly. If you are the shit, then act like you're the shit, because you are the shit.
Some people will respect you for that, and others won't. Hadi, on the other hand, I think he's got a bad rap because, you know, a lot of people thought he should have beat James Flex Lewis, and when they come out supporting him, you know, the Americans are like, you know, I shouldn't say the Americans, but the follower of the Olympia, they're defending James Flex Lewis. I think it's good that he fights back, and that his fans fight for him. I don't think he's arrogant.
I think it's because of his followers, like we said, more than himself.
So, speaking of the Arnold, I didn't get the invite.
And that's nothing to be ashamed of. A lot of girls.
No, because it was a lot of girls didn't get it, and also it was my first year trying to get it.
Well, how did that feel? Did it feel rejection? I mean, how did that feel?
I mean,
it's like a job.
Your ego is always a little hurt at the end of the day, like, because you see the list and you're like,
how'd she get in? What do you see?
Thank you. I'm like,
what?
All I know is that there's a secret panel.
Yes. And
there's votes. I have no idea who's on the panel. I don't know if they pick names out of a hat, or
you know what? It's better that you don't know.
So I mean, like a good amount is just like, okay, yeah, she deserves it, she deserves it, she deserves it.
And a good amount is, look, we want this girl representing that country, so it doesn't have anything to do with anyone personally.
I did see one. No, that was for Australia. Yeah,
you'll kill yourself trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
so
there's no, yeah, because if you go by, okay, so like I took the year off, but so did some people
after you found out you weren't invited.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, so why didn't I get picked? I was an overall winner at a national show. Like I was the USA's overall in 2015. I'm like, but she wasn't. Okay. So literally I have no idea.
But I think it's a numbers game. There's a million of you girls out there
I was
trying
like,
to get
followers, I don't know if they're like going like based off of social media. How is bikini judged? You don't know, I don't know, he don't know.
Well, wait a minute. I can judge the girl in a bikini. Are you kidding me?
Hold up. No, you can't.
Are you kidding me?
You put together all like the show winners.
Okay.
They all look different. You know they do.
Yeah, because you all have different judges at every, well, not at all the shows.
Not conditioned, shows. Little muscle, lots of muscle.
There's a very wide variety of winners, but you can say the same about men on the men's bodybuilding scene. I mean, Cedric McMillan won over in Italy, but he got beat over here in Palm Springs, right? I mean, so it just depends on who you're sitting in front of. But when it comes to women in bikini, and different judges like different things.
People
and
love saying
it's subjective. That's right.
Okay, so it's still subjective.
It is, and you know what? I gotta be honest. I've always said I think you should have more women judging women, because the men judge the men. We know what we like, what we want. But when you have women in bikinis and you only have male opinions, I think there's a little bit of sexism there. I would love to see more women judges judging girls like that. That way they can control the look of women's bikini, so that it doesn't become women's bodybuilding. You have men judging women that like muscle, they're gonna go for the more muscular girl in the bikini.
Phil Heath. All right. Oh boy. What did he say about classic physique competitors? He called them weekend warriors.
Yeah.
What you think? You mad?
No, I'm not mad. Like, I mean, he can have his opinion, you know, but.
Can he take his opinion and shove it up somewhere?
I think, you know, to get to that, you know, to the Olympia stage, you have to do everything you can. You can't just...
Like talk shit?
Not that.
That's not what you're saying?
You need to work hard, you need to die hard, you need to do everything better than the other ones. Otherwise, you're not going to win. So, you know, there's no way you're going to, you know, be like Brian or Chris Bumstead or Danny Hester.
All these guys are definitely, I mean, weekend warriors are like what? People that are not putting in as much work?
Well, let's some context would be Phil is training to be as big and as ripped as he possibly can be, so he feels like he's probably
taking whatever he needs to take to push himself to that limit. Like,
well, you can say that, but you can say the same about classic physique. The difference.
Don't they take less?
You can't measure what someone takes in terms of what they do behind closed doors, because there's guys out there that took a whole lot more than me that weren't even top amateurs. Okay. So it has nothing to do with what they take, but I think what he gives up, I think what his context is like to be Mr. Olympia, which he is 7 times, that there's no way a physique guy, a classic physique or otherwise, is doing and sacrificing what he's sacrificing. So that's an unfair comparison. By comparison, classic physique is like lightweight boxing. It doesn't even, you can't mention a classic physique in the same sentence as a 7-time Olympia winner. And it's coming from the totality
so he's talking about him being a 7-time Olympia winner
or
just being a bodybuilder?
No, you can't, he cannot separate being 7-time Mr. Olympia and being a weekend warrior.
So I think what he came from, Phil, when he said that comment was that when you want to keep getting better and better, so you start off classic physique, and you have to keep improving, and to improve, you have to add more muscle.
Size, okay.
Yeah, so getting bigger and bigger, which I think is where the sport goes wrong, the bodybuilding sport.
Right.
Well, that's part of the cross that he carries, because when you ask someone like that, in his position, his opinion on something as new as classic physique, it's still coming from his whole body of work, all the things that he sacrificed and did to become 7-time Mr. Olympia. It doesn't compare. It is a weekend warrior type thing to be a classic physique compared to what he's carrying around. So you're talking about classic physique, and I'm 7-time Mr. Olympia. It's lightweight. It came off kind of crass.
I get it, right? I mean, I get where I just don't think he should have called it a weekend warrior.
Yeah.
He should have just been like, not on my level.
Yeah.
Y'all are not on my level, and that's it. But
yeah, it's semantics.
Not like right.
Just
don't undermine somebody's work ethic, like.
You have to, like you said, you have to fit into this box where you're a certain weight and a certain height. He doesn't, and he's got to go up against Big Ramy and Big Rolly Winkler.
That's where, like, you know, when Flex Wheeler trying to chase Dorian with the size, that's where he went wrong.
That's when
wrong. Dorian was like, oh, I don't have to worry about you anymore because
you
know,
took
that's
yourself
my
out of the game.
Yeah, so I think that's where I feel he's wrong about that too.
Yeah, and you know what? Everyone loves to come after the champ.
So that's it for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to tune in next week on GenerationIron.com.